right, so officially I'm recording right now. So yeah, we're at the
Ba-ba-ba-da-ba.
episode 16 now. It's
Oh
yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
Do you,
we've been grinding, so it's pretty good.
nice.
Um, let's just double check that. But
I can't believe we're
yeah,
still here and we haven't been censored by YouTube.
Not enough people
uh,
watch. That's why.
yeah,
uh,
it's one of
You
those
can
things
pretty
where
you can get away with a lot of things on YouTube if like the viewership is low enough.
yeah, if it's low enough, the algorithm won't catch it because they got the bots like listening and stuff like
oh
that.
yeah, that's right.
And
Wait,
No human curation on YouTube.
yeah, unless it gets flagged, then there's a physical person. But like the flag is like, you know, far and
If
few
they
between.
get to that, sometimes they don't even get to them.
Mm,
A lot of times, actually, it's really, really poorly managed system.
oh yeah.
yeah.
It's.
There's all kinds
I
of
imagine it
numbers.
has to be incredibly hard to do for something that like, just
I mean, not really. It's a multi-billion-dollar company. They could just hire a team of curators to do it, like that are dedicated to it. They just don't bother.
Yeah,
Well,
they
no,
should
I mean
be. Yeah.
that's. I mean,
It's,
there's
it's
they have the
similar to
team they
Steam.
have, but it's true that I mean, but Google's still big, and I mean, just the amount of content that is continuously uploaded to YouTube on a day on a second by second basis is gigantic.
Sure, but if they had a dedicated team, like it wouldn't be that hard to do. With the money they have, like the fact that like so many creators are fucked over, but because they just don't hire a team and they just have bots that censor stuff because they don't understand the difference between a gym video and like a video about like fucking is stupid. Like it's there it's yeah, it's
Yeah,
YouTube. They just it's a terribly managed system.
well, I guess there might be a difference between like say the lower tiers like us versus like higher tier people like you know like the people who actually have thousands to millions of people where they could actually assign different teams to like manage those accounts.
Eventually, well, yeah. There's also some people that actually has actual person contact to YouTube. So there
Yeah.
are people there, but they don't have like an actual standard. You know what I mean? Like they don't have like, oh, this YouTuber is gonna get this group, or like they split by regions or anything like that. It really doesn't sound like that is the case at all. I mean, hell, like like the scale isn't matching. I don't think they also want to like. I mean, as a company, they want to cut costs at some point.
True.
Right?
I mean, sure. Like you're cutting off the entire corner, though. Like,
Yeah.
like we
I'm
put some
definitely not.
resources into it.
Yeah, I'm not saying that that's what they should be. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like,
yeah,
I'm not making excuses for them. I'm just
for
saying that,
sure,
like,
for sure.
it's
But
not
yeah,
surprising.
it's not surprising at all. Especially, I mean, like these giant companies. Facebook is the same way. Facebook's even worse because they have no people. Like there's no like way, there's no customer service, and literally every time you put in a complaint, it literally tells you, okay, you put in your complaint, but no one will ever see this. Like it's fucking terrible.
Yeah. It kind of goes with like the you can only make change when you get like traction through like social media practically.
And even then, sometimes not. I mean, look what happened to Dr. Disrespect on Twitch, right?
Yeah.
He doesn't like they never contacted him, and he's one of the biggest streamers in the world, and they just never contacted him.
Never
and
contacted
he
him.
has and he couldn't get in touch with anyone there.
Yeah.
It's absurd.
Yeah, it's pretty wild that they just ghosted him out of random.
Yeah.
And the worst of it, and it's like it really doesn't make sense. It's like what could possibly be the ghosting reason behind it, especially when
I mean,
he's such a big.
They just really didn't like him anymore. They were like,
but
fuck him.
they stand to make so much money with him.
Yeah,
though.
that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense. He just signed contract with them.
Yeah.
Like
a multi-year contract with them. Yeah, and it was.
What
they just
was
booted him.
the reason? It didn't make sense because he also has such a huge following that clearly will move with him. You know what I mean? Like they will.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel like this whole like aside from the ghosting and stuff, and that he had to move to he moved to YouTube streaming. It looked like it didn't phase him. You know what I mean? Like it didn't like his viewership is still freaking high.
I mean, it definitely phased him emotionally, but in terms
Sure.
of like viewership and followers, no, he's totally good. He's
Yeah.
pretty much exactly where he was on Twitch.
Exactly. Yeah, which and again, that still doesn't make sense why Twitch did that thing. It like they stand so much to gain.
Yeah, and it's been months too. Like usually,
Mhm.
if it's like if someone's like ghosted or something like this happens, and it's like, oh, the person did something really bad, people come out and they talk. They're like, oh yeah, he did this or whatever.
Right.
Whether they're actually truthful or not, that's where the investigation has to come in. But no one said anything. Like
Yeah.
no one has come out to say, oh, he did something really bad to me. It's like he literally nothing. It's just total silence. Like no one understands what happened to him. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah,
And even he's like I've watched a few of his streams since he got on YouTube, and he's like he usually keeps it together, but some days he's just like, I mean, it sucks because like most people won't even play with him anymore. Like most of the players, because like Twitch totally ghosted him. A lot of like big streamers won't play with him. There's a few like Courage who's just like, dude, you're my friend. I'm gonna play games with you. It's totally fine. And like he almost cried because he was just like, it's been like months and no one will like enter tournaments with me or anything.
Man, that's so fucking weird. What the fuck is it then? Like,
Yeah.
they clearly there's
Yeah.
some people that know if they're gonna not, you know, just socially. I don't know. You know, just
Yeah, I'm
fucking
sure
weird.
some people are worried about like damaging their brands if they're like in contact with him,
Maybe.
whether they know or not. But still, it's just a fucked up situation. That's just
Yeah,
Yeah.
no kidding. Okay, so
On lighter news, did anybody watch? Does anybody have any opinions on that? On Netflix, making a Resident Evil animated movie, or what is that, a series?
It's just another series. Yeah,
Yeah.
I have no opinion on it.
yeah, I'm like it doesn't need.
Claire
to
and Leon
happen,
are in
but
there. Okay,
whatever.
like so now we have 2 different Resident Evil series coming. Great. I mean,
Wait, what's
I-
the other one?
that live action one.
There's a
Oh,
live
yeah.
action one too.
Yeah, it's like the post-apocalyptic bullshit, which instantly tells you they don't get the series at all. But yeah, they announced the live action one like a month ago or a couple months ago, and then they just put out the teaser for that CG
That's-
one.
We should have a whole podcast about just that. Netflix adaptations that completely miss the point of the original.
Or just Netflix adaptations at all, or what even is Netflix doing right now? But yeah, we could go that route.
Yeah.
But yeah, for today is where it's like comfort media, which is you could go from movies, shows, games, something that you come back to, to stress relief. But that's our main topic, and our backup one is going to be what was
Other
our
than Pornhub.
anime?
Gateway animes.
Gateway anime.
Yeah, let's just have a topic
hey,
about
Carlos,
Pornhub. Fuck these
Gateway
other
hentai.
topics. Let's just discuss Pornhub in
Oh
depth.
my lord, no!
Uh,
God.
I'm just making sure we're demonetized, okay? I don't want any money
We're
out
not
of this. We're doing
monetized
out of this
anyway.
chart.
We're not even monetized anyways.
Good,
Don't
then
even
it's
make-
working.
It's perfectly fine.
Just
Oh, man.
preemptive demonetization. They'll
We are-
never monetize us now.
We are 8 minutes into, or 9 minutes into the podcast, and we've already tanked the quality. No, I was kidding.
Just want to make sure all of our literate viewers are just out of here.
Literate viewers? What does that mean? What do you mean?
Meaning
Man.
people who actually read a book for God's sake.
You mean those
don't
with
understand.
culture?
Okay.
I don't
Yeah.
know, man. They already lost a lot of cool points for listening to us.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that you're listening to us.
Also, thank you
You're
very
probably
much.
not anymore. Good for you.
After this.
Also, thank you very much. You're our gods.
All right, so I'll go first. So, the comfort media. I don't know why I keep on like rewatching Back to the Future. I can't fucking.
yeah.
I can't. I just put it on. I don't fucking know. I just keep on putting it back on. I know what everything
great-
happens. You
great
know, it's just
movie. Yeah.
yeah. I don't know. I'll even go as far as to like, I'm just gonna binge all three, even though I didn't like the third one. But
Yeah, me neither.
yeah.
There's a real argument
Fucking
for the
weird.
third one too. A lot of people love the third one like way more than the second one.
That I
I'm
did
like-
not hear.
You're out of your fucking mind. The
Yeah.
second one's so good. Dude. Introducing the
Which one?
almanac and the parallel dimensions. It's so fucking great. It's so awesome. Not to
Did
mention
you-
the awesome hoverboard intro. Come on,
Yeah.
come
Yeah,
on.
Yeah. Okay. Well. Okay. I got another one that's it's not a good. It's not at all good movies.
Please go on.
But I still enjoy is Bill and Ted.
Ooh.
I
Well,
don't
those
know.
are
I think Excellent Adventure is actually a solid movie.
right.
Pretty
right.
excellent.
I don't really remember Bogus Journey at all, to be honest.
Hmm.
But I remember watching Excellent Adventure as a kid and as a teenager like all the time.
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where I just put it on and then, I feel that like, oh man, nothing makes sense here. It's just stupid, but it gives me that kind of maybe it's the nostalgia, but I don't know. It's just it's funny. It's funny dumb.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
got Napoleon fucking bowling, ridiculous
Yeah.
scenarios.
That was a ridiculous scenario. I didn't understand. The fucking brother doesn't question why he's taking care of that guy. It doesn't. Nothing makes sense there. Time doesn't make sense. I mean, why, dude? How does this mean that? I think I mentioned this in one of the podcasts where I don't like it when movies do this thing where it's a movie that's almost meta in the sense that it's a band or it's a singer and their songs are so good that it changed the world, but when you actually listen to it you're like no.
Right.
Like it's eh. Or like those movies where it talks about a movie that supposedly changes the world or whatever and
Right.
it's terrible, you know what I mean? It just
I think the only movie that does that or talks about songs and stuff and then they're actually just as good is Scott Pilgrim, where they're like, oh, okay, Clash of Demon Head. They're like, Clash of Demon Head is the biggest
Dude,
band in the world, and you hear them and yeah, they're
I
actually
love
really
that.
awesome.
That's another one that for me it's definitely a comfort thing, because I'll
Oh,
put
yeah.
it on and it will just be in the background and I love just the action and the zaniness of it. I remember
Yeah.
especially watching it in theater, and the guy next to me, when it got to the parts where it was just going nuts, it was pretty much they were fighting and they were it's all Street Fighter that first one.
Yeah.
He just audibly went what in the same way that the characters were also saying what, and then he's
Yeah.
looking, he's just what am I what he's looking to his girlfriend or something and he's exaggerating. I mean, he doesn't know what he's watching anymore, he
Yeah.
doesn't understand, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
That
that's one
movie
of the
was just
few
too
I-
good for the world.
It was.
Yeah,
I
it
mean,
was.
It's insane that it's 10 years old already. But yeah, that's one of the few IPs where every single version of it is awesome. The movie's great, and then the comics
game?
are great, and the games was awesome, and I'm
Yeah.
really glad you can buy it again.
Mhm.
The animated series or show that they did was cool. It's just awesome.
Wait, there was an animated series?
Well,
It
they
wasn't
had
a series. It was yeah. It wasn't a series, but yeah, it was like a special or something.
Cool. What the? Where? How? Why? I never heard of it.
Well,
You
it
can
wasn't
probably
like a
look it up on
full-on
YouTube.
series. It was just more like a couple of shorts that they had on it. I think they can be found on YouTube or some kind of venue. I don't know. Maybe not YouTube. I don't get it down. But generally, they were just small little animated shorts. Nothing that constitutes a series, but just saying hey, we wanted to make this. It was kind of a stealth pilot, but nothing really came of it.
It's interesting. I'm gonna check it out. I remember the one movie came out. I knew people that they didn't get it. I had
Oh,
one
yeah.
guy, tell me once that they were like, but I didn't understand. Like, was that really happening, or was it all happening in his head? I'm like, it doesn't matter. It's like, yes, it's supposed to be, you know, it is happening, but at the same time, it's just from his point of view. It's,
Right.
you know, it's supposed to be, you know, it's not supposed, you're not, it's not supposed to be, you know, it's supposed to be surreal.
Right. It's not.
Yeah, most people didn't get it, unfortunately. That's why it bombed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody understood that. Like it was really going for that. Like don't think about it.
So that's
Stop
yeah,
thinking
exactly.
about it.
I mean, that's honestly most of Edgar Wright's movies, where like
Yeah.
they don't really do well commercially, aside from like I think Shaun of the Dead, Hot Fuzz, and World's Edge did pretty well, but those are like the biggest ones of his that, and like most of his movies are just like instant cult classics, but they don't do particularly well commercially.
Mm.
But he is one of those directors where like everything he's made has been awesome.
Yeah.
I hope he's working on something good now, because
I'm sure.
I'm sure he has been because I mean, like he's
Last thing he did was Baby Driver.
Yeah.
that was excellent.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that was very excellent. Another really good movie. A lot of just pretty
Yeah,
much.
it's a shame rapist Kevin Spacey had to fucking ruin it.
Oh,
Oh yeah,
damn.
we all forgot about that. I mean, do you think we are pissed about that? Can you imagine the people from House of Cards?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I didn't even bother watching the most recent House of Cards.
I tried watching like the first episode and I couldn't really get through it. It's not very good.
Really, I really liked it. I think it's pretty good.
So
The
the
newest?
last season?
The latest?
Oh, the last season? No.
Like the
It's
one
No,
where
I'm
he's
I'm
not
just
there.
talking about the last. Yeah, I'm just talking about the
Oh,
last
okay.
season where he's dead. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the rest of the
How
show.
did
It's really
how
good.
did they deal with that though?
He's
Wait,
dead.
he just died.
Like
he
he's
just dies
dead,
He's
and
dead.
he was assassinated, and like there's a conspiracy that
Oh
Claire
my
has to
God.
figure
I
out.
see.
Oh.
Got it. Okay. No wonder.
Had to
Because
jump
I
that
was wondering
shark,
how
huh?
they would, how are they gonna deal with it? You know, like how they're gonna explain
Yeah.
him not gonna be there. So that's interesting that they did that.
I mean, a political figure being involved with, in a scandal with pedophilia, honestly, just fits right in.
It does. Yeah.
and tracks.
Sadly
It
enough.
tracks.
Sadly enough.
Indeed. All right, yeah. So that was my comfort, I would say.
All right, D. What do you got?
All right. Well, generally, I tend to watch a lot of 80s memorabilia type stuff. So when it comes to movies, one movie I always like putting on is Beat Street. Now, this is funny because I'm not too big on hip hop culture in general, but something about Beat Street just really speaks to me. I don't know if it's a story about a couple of friends who are so unlikely, but they're just so close, and one of them wants to make it big, and then the rest are just trying to live their lives, and one of them's a graffiti artist. Just maybe it's the soundtrack more than the people, but it's just whenever I feel like I'm at some kind of high and I just don't know what to do, I just put on some motherfucking Beat Street. I think one of my favorite scenes though is with the synthesizer scene, where it's hard to explain it, but this guy starts showing off his computer equipment for one of the main characters, and he gets to play around with it a bit, and you start hearing some like advanced MIDI type tunes out of this Commodore or Tandy looking computer. But I always loved that because that shit turned me on to synthesizers for the longest time. Like he crashes the computer, of course, but you hear all these different types of sequences. And every time I try to find like a small clip to find on YouTube where there's nothing of that scene where it's just a snippet, I always have to watch a whole goddamn movie just to put on that scene, but I don't mind putting on the whole goddamn movie. And people would say like, oh yeah, well, my 80s hip hop movie was Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo. Nah, man. Beat Street has soul. It has like all kind, like it's not just about dancing and it's not just about music. It's just that happens to be part of it, but it's just there's still a story to tell, and it has some great messages to tell about like appropriating art. I just really think Beat Street is a more universal movie than it turns out, like than what people want to give it credit for. Because you don't have to appreciate hip hop dance or anything to enjoy the movie, or to at least understand that it's a story about people first, and then everything else is just framing. But I mean, you know, other than that, I always like putting on, you know, some shows whenever I'm doing some chores, like washing dishes or cooking. So I will be putting on some old ass cartoons like G.I. Joe and Mask and Pole
Mask,
Position.
Mask. Nice.
Sometimes I put on Jim. I don't mind Jim. The songs are cheesy in Jim, but fuck it, the animation's beautiful. At least, and not the animation, but the character designs are beautiful. The animation's just that stock, like outsourced anime-ish look that you see in most 80s cartoons. So it's one of those, you know, love it or leave it. Most 80s cartoons had good music, I'd say, like good background music, like regardless of how anyone feels about it, because you know it's very catching, not just for opening themes, but the choice of instruments they use. Just, you know, you could literally want to have some of the stuff as a original soundtrack if you wanted to. Not that you could, but you know, there was stuff that was soundtrack worthy that just never made to print. So I don't know. It's just something that reminds me of camp, I guess. Like, it's just so silly that you just kind of don't worry about a lot of the intense stuff.
Right.
Yeah. Just it tackles themes, sure, but it's just the way it handles. It's cheesy, but it's not necessarily cheesy to the point where you can't take it seriously at all. Or at least that's how it is for me. Some people might think different. And
or rather has cheesy moments, but they also have some serious moments that you don't expect.
Oh hell yeah!
Or
I mean,
message.
even when you're watching shit like He-Man, you know that stuff is cheesy as hell, but you buy into the action somehow, or you buy into the world. Maybe you have to be from that time. I don't know, but I feel like the way that cartoons were handled, little back then, like they at least respected the fundamentals to draw characters to look somewhat believable. Like there was muscle tone and everything. Even if there wasn't even that, at least it gave people an idea of like, hey, you know, if you draw at the most basic level, it could look like this. I'm not saying there's a problem with shit like cartoons on the Dexter's Laboratory level or anything like that. I'm just saying there's a balance. Like you can draw that, but don't aspire to only draw that because you can't draw like He-Man and shit. You want to kind of have some range there. But you know, that's kind of going off. I just really find things comfortable and campy when I just put on some 80s tunes and start cleaning up.
It's interesting how like the animation style has changed throughout the decades, right? Like you said, in the 80s, they used a more anatomically correct type of style, with the Thundercats, the Silverhawks.
Yeah. Lack of the exaggerations.
Yeah.
And exaggeration can work when it can. I'm not saying that exaggeration is bad or cartoony styles are bad. I'm just saying that I'm noticing that let's just put it this way. Richard Williams, who was the daddy of Roger Rabbit, he noticed that there were some art students who weren't traditionally trained to draw traditional. They were just like given passing grades, just doing whatever. And you know, I think when you're seeing a generation of that where it's like you're just given a passing grade and you're headed off to the industry and you're drawing whatever you can. I'm not saying that it's bad that they lower the bar that way. I'm just saying that, you know, if you once that niche passes or once the market wants something a little bit different than what you're comfortable with, what's going to happen to you? Because it doesn't seem like you'll be keeping the job much longer if the trends change. Right. It's like they're not trained to be adaptable. That's what the problem was with them. or in his eyes, I should say. I'm not pointing the finger at the late Richard Williams because he was the one who wanted to say that. Okay, right. But yeah, basically that.
Interesting. Who? I'm sorry. Who's this? Richard Williams.
Oh, Richard Williams was this animator who worked on Roger Rabbit, and he
Ah,
wrote this book, I think, the Animator Survival Guide, Animator Survival Kit.
right.
Yeah, but he wrote that, and
Well,
anyone who wants to not necessarily get into animation, but also understand how to storyboard or make a comic, it is a very useful book. Sean, I think you have that book, don't you? The Animator Survival Kit.
Yep. Yeah, it was a required reading back in college. But yeah, it's a pretty big book.
Oh, yeah.
big book.
Yeah.
So he pretty much lamented that kind of like loss of realism.
It's not that it was a loss of realism. He wanted people to be more adaptable. Didn't matter what style that they drew in. He just wanted to make sure that they had the right fundamentals and they could be adaptable to make anything that they could instead of just being limited to just one type of drawing. So
Yeah.
I guess the idea was just
Yeah.
to keep the market open instead of just pigeonholing it into this one thing that was either meant for convenience or I guess budgeting or whatever. Basically, just not trying to box animation into this it's the fine medium. Just don't box it into this one set of styles that are safe or like budget friendly.
Yeah, like if you were doing something more anime-like in the versus saying like you were going for more of a realistic look, he didn't. The emphasis was that like, are we doing it because the story and the material serves that purpose, or are we doing it because we just want to cut budgets?
Exactly.
So like a lot of the anime that would be starting to pick up in popularity, you can animate things in a way where like there's a difference between say like Spirited Away versus like the other type of anime. What was another one? Another type of animation that doesn't run their
Phineas and
animation
Ferb.
ones
There you are.
like frame by frame versus like you're animating in threes and then like or fives even because something so fast is happening and then they just have like a nice pretty background that kind of slides across the screen because they can't animate specific things too much, so they just fake the movement. So they're using parallax to their advantage, so they'll like layer the foreground, middle ground, and background. Like if you see, say, that Rurouni Kenshin, for instance, has like intro animation where the foreground and background are sliding, and that's a good technique and stuff like that. And then they would put in a little bit more of budget into animating the fight that's happening in the middle. And
Right.
they'll do things that they'll purposely have longer cutscenes of talking dialogue because then they don't need to spend the money for like a scene where there needs more movement.
Right. Sometimes they'll just pan the camera across an entire scene that's basically just drawn in, and they'll just put like, if they have to like say fake, a market, they'll just put like the picture of market, with a bunch of people, and they just like pan the camera around it, faking the movement of
Mhm.
like, oh hey, this is a really busy street, without having to actually animate something in there.
Right, and then you got stuff like in Spirit Away where there's scenes of like a lot of stillness is happening, which is kind of a Japanese cinematography like really does a lot of that, where stillness is an important aspect to their storytelling. But in the animation, a lot of that could be just an excuse to just have nothing happen in the background. Like Evangelion, like you have that fucking scene where they're just in an elevator for like a whole minute or two, and
Oh yeah.
like in one perspective you could say this awkward moment between them is like there's something deeper happening, or it could be just that they're just like we don't we want to fill time, You know, you know, I'm not saying they did, but that's like an example of where the things could be an excuse.
It could be a little bit of both for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Versus like Spirit Way does have scenes where like there's not anything really happening, but there's so much movement happening in the animation.
But
It's
I mean,
still
one thing,
stylized, like the characters are stylized. But there is a purpose to their stylization for their storytelling and then for like having a larger than life effect. Like the difference between the anatomy between the girl and then that, what was it, the mistress, like it's such a huge difference. Like she's practically a walking head. the
Yeah.
right, and but that exaggeration, it was still well animated. They didn't hold back. And I think that's where the line starts like bleeding, where people are making excuses for anime style being the budget, you know, trend. You know, like, hey, we can make a popular anime and not have to spend so much money on animation. And then versus, you know, there's stuff like Spirited Away, of course. Yeah.
I mean, to
Or
be
hell,
fair,
just saying like we're inspired by the show. That means we can be lazy on everything else and not really give this the respect or love that we want to have it. We just want to put a postmodern flair on it and just kind of bitch and piss on everything.
Mm.
I'm
Given
not
the
saying that there's a show that exists like that out there, but
there must be something because
that's
you're
like
definitely
every
referring to
modern
something.
animation lately.
I mean, I would say, you know, think of something popular like, what is it, Adventure Time with, Gravity Falls.
Mm.
It really does take on that more, simplistic cartoonish style because it's supposed to be a cartoon.
Yeah, it's supposed to be exaggerated.
Well, it's like,
Or
yeah,
like,
I mean, there's a lot I could get in on Adventure Time. This, the pilot was great, and the first few episodes were great. It's just, it looks like that the reins were just taken over by someone other than the creator, and it became their show. That's basically what happened with Adventure Time. But kind of losing ourselves in the details. But yeah, that's my piece on the whole comfort media.
Good.
Someone else got the floor here?
nice.
Sure. I have a lot of these things, honestly, but I like took a small chunk. So I'll kind of just run down the list and describe each one, like give a summary, I guess. So yeah, I think we were already talking about it in the intro, but one of them is Resident Evil 4. It's a game. I think that, and another one on this list is the Uncharted series for me, specifically Uncharted 2 and Resident Evil 4 and Uncharted 2. I've played like those two games. I've played start to finish, probably each at least 30 times in my life. Like I've played them more than any other games. I think both are just infinitely replayable, and the rest of the Uncharted series is excellent as well. And then let's see. I think the rest of them I have are movies. So Serenity, which is it's the movie from the series Firefly. It's actually my favorite movie, and I think it's just a perfect movie. Honestly, it's cool to see a space western. You really see very, very, very few of those, and it's one of the. Yeah, I'll just leave it at that for that one. You have other stuff like the Lethal Weapon series, which I've watched again and again for my whole life. I know them backwards and forwards. You have something like Ocean's 12, which I definitely acknowledge is inferior to Ocean's 11. But I love I think Ocean's 12 is my favorite of that trilogy because and I've talked to you guys about this in the past, I think, but like the reason I love the movie is because I feel like there's still really nothing like Ocean's 12 because it is the aftermath of the heist of Ocean's 11. It's the B-side of that tape that you never get to see in heist movies, where at the end of Ocean's 11, the crooks, Danny Ocean and his merry band, they get away, but not really, because in the last shot of the original of that movie, you see Terry Benedict, who's the antagonist. He has his henchmen following them, and between Ocean's 11 and Ocean's 12, they basically, they a few years pass, and they've think they've lost a henchman, and everybody's sort of living their lives at different corners of the world. And Terry Benedict actually he finds each one of them with the help of the Night Fox, who's the main one of the main antagonists of the movie, who's like this brilliant thief. And it's just really interesting to see that dynamic is still something that I haven't seen in any other movie, where it's like, okay, they pulled off the heist, now the antagonist has found them, and now they have to pay everything back. And if they don't pay it back, then he'll kill everybody. So it's really awesome. The premise alone is really cool. I think that the end and sort of the way it's resolved is a little deflating, or like a little. It's a little anticlimactic, but I still think the movie works well. And then I like the original Bourne trilogy a lot, but I think the one that is my favorite is the third one, which is the Bourne Ultimatum. I think just from the momentum of that movie is fucking insane. Like from the very first scene to the very last scene, it just doesn't stop. Like the action, and it's all the action so well done. Fight scenes are well done. Obviously, the chase scenes are well done, and it's cool to see sort of a full circle thing with Bourne at the end with Paz, who's the assassin played by Edgar Ramirez, and seeing how that sort of circles back to Bourne's encounter with the professor in the first one, who's played by Clive Owen, and sort of because there's a line in the first one, like as Clive Owen's character is dying, that he tells Bourne, where he's like, "Look at this, look at what they make you give," and he's like, he's bleeding to death, and he's like looking at his hands, and then he dies. And Bourne says that to Paz in Ultimatum, like right before he basically is shot off of a roof. But it's interesting to see it full circle. And that for me, that series, like the trilogy, that original trilogy are the only movies in that series really worth watching. The ones that they did afterwards, with the one with Jeremy Renner and Rachel Weisz, it had an interesting premise, but it wasn't incredible. And the way that movie ended is so stupid. Like, it's just so anticlimactic. And then the one that they made like a few years ago, I think it was just called Jason Bourne, was when they brought back Matt Damon. They brought back Jason Bourne, and I don't know. It was more of the same. But it wasn't done nearly as well as any of the trilogy movies. And then what do we have? The Departed. I don't have much to say about this movie, except it is my favorite Scorsese movie by a mile. I think Scorsese is a great director, but I don't like everything he's done. But The Departed, I feel like, is a pretty much perfect movie. Just the idea of you're on the journey with these two infiltrators, right? You have the Leonardo DiCaprio's character, who is the cop who is brought in, and he's basically too smart for his own good. So they make it, instead of him just becoming a normal cop, he's tasked with going to prison. So he has a cover, and then going undercover with the Irish mob. And then you parallel that with Matt Damon's character, who is the opposite, where he was raised by Jack Nicholson's character, Frank Costello, who's the main gangster and the head of the Irish mob in Boston. And he was raised by him as a criminal, but he was raised to be an infiltrator in the police department. So he goes through the academy, he like rises up the ranks, and he is the rat in the police department. And it's this cat and mouse game between Matt Damon and Leonardo DiCaprio's character, with the through line being Frank Costello, who's Jack Nicholson's character. And you just see how it all unravels, and it's really it gets really brutal by the end. Yeah, that movie is absolutely excellent. I've come back to it so many times. And then I have just a few more. Dread, which I think we talked about in one of the other previous podcasts. The 2012 Carl Urban, Olivia Thirlby, Lena Headey, incredible cast, incredible movie. You know, done on a very modest budget, but done incredibly well. Very simple, it's a Die Hard-esque premise where it all pretty much takes place in one 200-story building, and it's just Dredd and Anderson working their way up the levels trying to get to Mama, who is the main antagonist, and just seeing all the shit that transpires. It's violent, and it's just really really well done. And I'm so sad that they never got to do the trilogy that they wanted from that, because Alex Garland, the writer of that, he talked about like years ago, like he was like outlining what the trilogy would have been like, how in the second one, Dredd and Anderson, they would have gone outside of the city, and they would have gone into the desert and met like all these mutants and all these different things. And then the third one would have brought in like dark judges and all this fucking cool stuff from the comics. That just unfortunately never happened.
Carl
and
Urban,
then,
man, he always does such a great job in anything he's
oh
in.
yeah, I love Carl Urban. He's incredible. And then what do we have? I have just a couple more. Skyfall, which is probably, I think Skyfall and Casino Royale are my two favorite Bond movies ever, James Bond movies. But Skyfall kind of takes it for me, just because I not only is it sort of similar to some of the other stuff I mentioned, like Resident Evil 2 or Resident Evil 4 and like Uncharted, like it's just infinite. Like those games are sort of infinitely replayable for me. Skyfall is infinitely rewatchable for me. Like this idea of like an aging James, it's a character piece. Like the whole thing is a character piece between James Bond and M, Judi Dench's M, who this is her last movie. She dies at the end. But like, and you get to see the introduction of these classic characters in their new incarnations, like Q, who's like he's a younger version in this. And then you get like Moneypenny, who we don't even necessarily know as Moneypenny until the very end. But they make these like sort of, and even the I guess quote unquote new M, who is actually the original M, played by Ralph Fiennes. They bring him in in the story, and they basically make, you know, those three characters in particular who have always surrounded James Bond in every movie he's ever been in, but they've always been like caricatures. They haven't been actual characters, and they made them actual characters in this movie. And that it's all anchored by James Bond, who is aging, and he's past his prime, and he's sort of shot and left for dead in the beginning, and he shows back up, and he's like addicted to pills, and he's an alcoholic, and he can't shoot straight anymore, and like he's out of shape, and like to pit him against Javier Bardem's character, who is essentially a mirror image of Bond, except like he's basically what could happen to Bond if Bond makes one wrong step. Like Mr. Silva's character, who he plays, is like this. He used to be this like top-notch 00 agent who like was M's favorite like agent, the same way that Bond is now, and like he was captured, and he like, there's the cool story bit where he describes how like he had the cyanide that all spies have in like their molars, and he bit down on it, but it didn't kill him. Like it just rotted his insides and his mouth and stuff. And
yeah, that was
I love
yeah.
that idea that life just claimed to him.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wanted to die, but like it just claimed to him, and that's sort of what fuels his rage against M. Like it's such a fucking cool premise. And like I think in any other movie, like you see certain movies sort of, I think like people make the argument about Dark Knight, about like how Joker steals the show, and he does, but like it's sort of like where in that it's almost like the villain overpowers in terms of like their charisma, in terms of their screen presence, they overpower the hero. In Skyfall, it's like Javier Bardem's character would have overpowered the hero if Daniel Craig's version of James Bond wasn't so fucking good. Like the fact that they're just in opposition is just like the perfect match. And I always parallel that movie. It actually came out the same year as Dark Knight Rises, but I always parallel it to that movie because like I think that Skyfall is that movie is Dark Knight Rises, but it's done better. Like because the Dark Knight Rises is very similar, where it's like Bane is a parallel to Batman. Like he was part of the League of Shadows, same as Batman, but he was so violent that he got excommunicated, which I actually called before the movie came out. And yeah, like I just think Skyfall is that, but it's done like just expertly. And it is. I think it's just incredibly well done. And then two more, which I'll just kind of skim over. I watched this the other night because I've watched it like fucking so many times. Die Hard with a Vengeance. I love the first three Die Hard movies. They're all excellent, especially the first one and the third one. And I think it to ask me which one is my favorite between the original Die Hard and Die Hard with a Vengeance, it kind of depends on the day. Like it changes. Like I think that people debate sort of uselessly, like, is the first Die Hard a Christmas movie or not? I mean, who fucking cares? Like, it's a great movie to watch, and it is great to watch on Christmas too. Like, it's just such a fun, well done, well written, well acted, like this smart ass versus these like 12 terrorists in a skyscraper, like it's fucking like so good. One of the best action movies ever made. And Die Hard with a Vengeance is it matches it. It's so, and in a lot of ways it's better. Like it's sort of, the premise is like John McClane, he's now divorced from his wife who's in the first two, and like he's back in New York, and like he's drunk, and he's like, and they bring him in because like Simon, who's this like terrorist who he blew up like one of the stores or whatever, and he basically makes him and Samuel L. Jackson's character go all over the city playing a very demented version of Simon Says, where Simon is basically the Riddler, giving like John McClane and Zeus, who is Samuel L. Jackson's character, all these weird like cryptic riddles and shit, and he's like, okay, solve this, or the fucking building blows up or the school blows up, and they're like, well, what the fuck are you talking about? And it's just like it's this whole like, why it's the same sort of John McClane wise ass thing versus Simon, and it exemplifies John McClane's character perfectly, where he's always the underdog, and every villain he encounters, he should definitely lose against. Like, there's no reason why this guy should win. Simon has more henchmen. He's better trained. All of his henchmen are better trained. But McClane he's like the bad penny that just keeps showing up. And like, nobody wants him there. He doesn't want to be there, but he keeps throwing wrench after wrench into their operation until he, eventually kills Simon in the end. And it's really, really well done. I always love in the Die Hard movies, and Vengeance definitely does this the most, where they just beat the living shit out of John McClane. Like, he is dirty and like scummy and bloody as fucking shot up, like by the end of it. And like, he starts off pretty clean, and like it just ends with him and Zeus just completely wrecked. And I love that movie so much. Like, Jeremy Irons is incredible as Simon, and obviously it's revealed that Simon is actually the brother of Hans Gruber, who is Alan Rickman's villain in the first one. And then the very, very last one that I will say is sort of similar to Die Hard with a Vengeance in the way that like the third one and the first one in the series are like my favorite. They're both incredible, and it definitely I sort of teeter between which one is my favorite, but it is Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. I think Raiders Raiders has everything. Raiders of the Lost Ark has everything. It's got Marion Ravenwood, the best love interest by far, and it has the best villain by far in Belloc, like this anti-Indiana Jones, who's like, basically they're both fueled by this passion for and this love of history. And like there's that great scene where Indiana Jones is gonna shoot. He has a rocket launcher. they have like Belloc has captured Marion Ravenwood, and he's like, I'll shoot it. I'll shoot it. Indiana Jones is basically giving Belloc an ultimatum, and Belloc's like, go ahead, shoot it. But like, you and I are fueled by this. Like, you and I, we're just passing through history, but this, and he's referring to the Ark of the Covenant, this is history. And like, that stops Indiana Jones. And I love that. And definitely Last Crusade doesn't have nearly as good antagonists. They're fine. They're serviceable. But they're not as good. The love interest, Elsa, she's interesting. I think they could have gone into her character a little bit more. Like, she's working with the Nazis, but she doesn't believe in what they're like doing and all this stuff. But
there's this hesitation.
But I mean, yeah, and like, but I mean, the crux of Indiana Jones and Last Crusade is really is Indiana Jones and his father's relationship. You see how strained it is, and the chemistry between Harrison Ford and Sean Connery is awesome, and it's hilarious. And I love how they're so different from each other. Like, it's hinted that like the death of Indiana Jones' mother when he's a kid like really drove a wedge between them, and he left home when he was like 17 and went into the war, and they drifted apart. And Indiana Jones is more of a field worm, where he just gets into the field and that's how he learns, whereas his father is a bookworm who he's a teacher. He's equally as brilliant, but he is but he doesn't know what Indiana Jones does. Like, he doesn't know that like Indiana Jones actually goes out and he finds these things. Indiana Jones goes around killing Nazis. Like, he does all this shit, and like you put Henry Jones Sr. Into that, and it's just this comedic sort of thrill ride that they build. And I love I absolutely love the beginning of Last Crusade. It's definitely my favorite start to any Indiana Jones movie, where they show young Indiana Jones, played by River Phoenix, who died like shortly after filming, I believe. It's just so good because you get to see like where Indiana Jones' like fear of snakes came from, and you get to see all these fucking really cool things. You get to see like where he got his outfit from, and even the guy, like the crook who was like chasing him, and he found Coronado's cross, and like Indiana Jones is like, he stole it away from him, and they're chasing him. And you get to see like the fact that like the leader of that band of those bandits is the guy that Indiana Jones models his outfit after. Like, and it speaks to his rebellious nature. And then they have the excellent, because they always in the Indiana Jones movies, they always try to have these like inventive openings. And then I think with this one, it's kind of the best, where like at the end of that sort of young Indiana Jones segment of the movie, the main crook who Indiana Jones frames his outfit around, he gives him his hat, and he puts it on Indiana Jones, and he's like,
they match.
he's like, you lost today, clever kid, but that doesn't mean you have to like it. And he puts the hat down, and it covers his face. And when he raises his face up, it's Harrison Ford. He's the Indiana Jones we know, and he's getting the shit kicked out of him. But it's so, and it's, him, 30 years later, having tracked the same artifact that he was tracking, and the same guy that he was tracking in the first scene. And it's just so fucking well done. It's incredibly well done. And, you just have, and again, I don't think there's certain things that aren't as good. Like, I don't think the MacGuffin of the Holy Grail, which, the mythology, they blended sort of the Holy Grail and the Fountain of Youth together. But, they have, there's definitely some weak points in the movie, but I absolutely love it. And I think it is more rewatchable than Raiders, even though I don't necessarily think it is better. But it's pretty much my favorite one, I think. And it is the one where I've rewatched it more times than any of the other ones in the series. So, yeah, that is my very long list done.
Oh, stuff you like to do while relax and stuff. I mean, I really like the Last Crusade as well, especially because it has some really iconic moments. Like, he chose poorly after he just knew. the guy just completely disintegrates into dust.
Yeah.
And I love the line between Harrison Ford and Indiana and his father, where I can't remember what it was said, but he gets something out of her, and he's like, "How did you know that?" He's like, "She sleeps.
Oh yeah.
She talks while she sleeps." And then you realize, they
Yeah.
both slept with her.
Yeah, that's really funny. And Sean Connery has like the smirk on his face, and Indiana Jones is like, "What? Wait, what?" And it's,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
it's awesome.
Oh,
I
who
love that
could
Sean
forg-
Connery has
who
to
could
put an
forget-
S in everything.
Who could forget the scene with the invisible bridge?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the optical illusion.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the leap of faith that he has to take.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, those traps at the end are pretty cool.
I remember actually, I was playing back in the day. I was playing Guild Wars, and they actually in one of the dungeons they have a area where you don't have to go there at all. It's just after you defeat the boss, you could just go off the beaten path, and there's actually a section where you can go and there's a bunch of bridges that reach to a spot, and they're all it's just it's a nod to that. It has these
That's
invisible bridges that have dust on it that
Mhm.
lets you know that
Nice.
That's
pretty
actually
cool.
how you end up finding some of the invisible bridges in Dark Souls, because some kind soul will leave some sort of message, saying, "Go over here, go over here," and you just
Right.
follow that line until some troll tells you to to turn right, and it's like, oh, no there. Which helps. That's wonderful segue for me to talk about my relaxing media, which definitely one of those things is going to be the Souls games. Pretty much any time that those games are in my hard drive, on my PS4, my PC, I'm gonna play it. I'm definitely just gonna pop it.
Even when
I'm
you
so
have
familiar
like
with.
such a huge backlog of games that you're like, I'm just gonna play that.
Yes,
I have that same
exactly.
thing too, like same
It's
kind
the
of urge. I'm not saying Dark Souls, but definitely there's some games where it's like I'm just gonna play it again, even though
yeah,
like
you
I
just
have
go
other
back to
games
them
to
because
play.
they're easy to go back to because you're just so
Yeah,
familiar with
you got
that experience.
There's like this taste that
Yeah.
you come back to for.
Yeah,
It comes
exactly.
up.
And yeah, the Souls, games do tend to have a lot of quite a lack of other series like Legend of Zelda and Metroid, where there's a lot of quiet exploration.
Yeah.
There's there's a lot of quiet, lonely exploration, and yet there's still a bit of a sense of community with people, leaving you notes, telling you, hey, this is an invisible wall, and actually being an invisible wall.
Damn,
Right.
imagine
Although,
the day when there's not gonna be any messages.
yeah.
It's gonna be sad. That's what I think about with Death
Oh,
Stranding.
you mean when the servers close?
Like something like that, or like finally we've gone through enough Dark Souls that you don't go back to the old ones, and maybe
Yeah,
if you do, you only gonna meet maybe a couple messages from like the last few people that are still playing it.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it makes it even more sad and dark.
Yeah.
That's what I think about like with Death Stranding too. Like that thing is like eventually no one's gonna build shit. Offline mode might as well be.
Yeah. That game was definitely a really big sense of it. A really big part of the world is your sense of community with other people that you're not playing with.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. There's so many structures that are dependent on the other people around you. Yeah.
Offline
That's
mode is
actually
hard mode.
yeah, pretty much.
But go on, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good relaxing game too. Like there's so many points in that game where you just, you're just trying to go forward and listening to the music in the background, and you can just relax. But I'm not gonna, go back to that one because I haven't played it in ages. I think the other games that I'd really like playing, just to relax, are the Borderland games.
Yeah,
Mm.
I agree with
They-
that too. I like putting on See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
When you play Apex, I can't put on music and just chill.
Right.
It's just not possible.
Yeah.
But then,
Yeah.
like with Borderlands, yeah, I'll put on something. Like just chill
Yeah.
out, kill some things, whatever.
Yeah, it's pretty non-committal. Like there's not a lot of, it's not demanding of you.
Mhm.
Yeah, if you're especially if you're playing in a, like, if you don't have like, mayhem level 20 or something, yeah, and you're just playing by yourself, it's super chill.
Yeah.
There's so many expanses of. It's something that used to be a criticism of the old games, where there were too many expanses of terrain, where there was no activity going on, and you just had to strive forward. But they got better at putting an activity in between too.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention Ghost in the Shell animated, the animated, different, all of the animations. That was the one that,
Like a standalone complex.
yeah, those things, like, that's definitely comfort for me. Like, anything, like, a lot of
Yeah.
cyberpunk stuff is comfort media for me. I don't know why. I really enjoy just anything cyberpunk, even if it's like even if it's not that great. I don't know, like, I enjoy this darker idea of what the world's gonna be.
I gotta admit, I've never seen the whole entirety of standalone complex.
It's
Ah.
definitely
yeah,
worth going through the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Standalone Complex is like one of my top 5 animes of all time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear it. I mean, like the only way I used to be able to catch it was back in Adult Swim, and that was just such an sporadic, intermittent way to
Right.
actually, catch up to it, that it just never really followed the story all the way through.
It worked
Yeah,
well with the
it comes
series.
on and off. It comes on and off of like Netflix and Hulu.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll have to watch it. Yeah, it's funny how, like, the live action adaptation had tried to do both, and it tried to take bits of like
Bits of
standalone
the
complex,
standable, yeah, and then
and
bits
the
of
original, and
the,
try to merge it.
like, the movie version. Yeah, they tried to
Yeah.
put in some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Very poopy.
There, that thing was
God,
hot.
it really was like,
It's a
ah.
Thousand Five. Yeah.
Like, some people like found that they were just like, oh, it's botching up the story and shit. Like, I didn't care that, like, if she was, like, that she was Scarlett Johansson, not a Japanese woman. Like, that wasn't, like, I didn't
Sure.
care about that. That wasn't the thing that just did a poor job of the storytelling. Was just the fact that, in spoiler, like, they gave the character an original form, as in, like, in the animation it's alluded to that she was human at one point, but you
Yeah.
never really knew what was her background, because it played
Well,
with
they
your
talked about the
expectation.
accident that.
Well,
she
if
had
you're
as a
talking
kid.
about a character being a cyborg, it does imply that they were originally human at one point.
Right.
So you can't build a cyborg. You can only make
But it's
one
not
from
that it's not that I'm saying that she was never human. I'm just saying that she was, what was she originally? Because there's all kinds
There's
of,
always a
like,
little bit of a mystery as to who she was to begin with, and in the end, it kind of doesn't matter. And
Right.
right. Whereas that's the part of the movie that sucked, was that they kind of, they gave it an
Yeah.
origin, which then
I see.
further fucked it up, because, like, it kind of put fuel on the fire. This, like, oh, she was Japanese. Like,
Yeah.
you fucking idiots. Like,
I
why did
know,
you
right?
write that
Wow.
in?
you
fucking
just have to
idiots,
like
like-
rub it in.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you like, as if you didn't have a bad situation with the casting, that everybody was getting up on the, like, Asian actors are not getting, their due,
Right,
and people have that argument, and that's fine. Like, I understand it for sure.
Mhm.
But it depends on the context. So in Ghost in the Shell, it was like, well, I mean, it, if they, so before entering into the movie theater, I had the intention of saying, okay, giving it a chance that they're going to display that there's many models of her, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's she's a doll, like, like, they're all gonna look like her, and that was the emphasis they had in the original animated movie.
Yes, there's specifically one scene in which she sees another body that just looks
It looks
just
exactly
her.
like her. Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
And
and that's at a point where she's questioning her own humanity.
and it's like, oh, this is a model based off of the model body that she has, and she has to go from body to body, and like, it's there, that there was a story point for it, and that's what it should have been in the live action, but they didn't do it. They didn't do it at all. In fact, actually, they literally said that she was a They're saying your real name is, and then like that shit was, that was
They
bad.
just made it even weirder because at some point you realize, wait, this was maybe like a year or two ago when she had the accident and they put her in that body. They put like this
Even worse.
13-year-old girl into like a
Oh.
full like 20-something-year-old woman.
Yeah, which
body,
is
like-
so fucking dumb because the whole thing, like the one thing that we
Right.
did know about her origin was that she was always in a cyborg body. Like
Yeah.
she was a kid, like she
Well,
one
since
of-
she was a kid, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
since she was a kid. So that was the the aspect where now she's just questioning her sense of being, right?
Yeah.
And what it
It also doesn't make
yeah,
sense
it's just-
because like how does she have the prowess to even be the major if she's like
Uh-huh.
a kid who's like just
Mhm.
transported to the body, whereas in like in Standalone Complex they show her military background. There's a whole
Exactly.
episode of them like facing a sniper and stuff, and like they show like why she is like as awesome as she is, like, and that's
Well,
really weird.
it's exactly a complete misunderstanding of what the property was. Like,
Yeah.
at some point, somebody thought, wait, so this is RoboCop but with boobs? Hell yeah, let's do it. It's like, wait, no, that's not what it is.
Mhm.
It's like,
That's
and
essentially yeah.
we can cast Scarlett Johansson. Oh, you're not gonna listen to. This is an exploration about what humanity is, and it's like, oh man, this is gonna look so cool. Look at all the visuals. And it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Mhm.
I just want the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my god, I can go on how bad that movie is. But
so if your comfort is Dark Souls, is the aesthetic of Dark Souls that
it's mostly that quiet exploration for sure.
okay.
It's just
got
being
it.
able to get through the world. Even in the moments where, the moments where it frustrates me, are definitely the parts that I try to avoid as much as possible. But again, I'm just so familiar with the world and with the bosses that even if I get my ass handed, once or twice, I'm able to, to tackle that obstacle. And sometimes I just like to use the different strategies to be able to tackle it.
Mhm.
Yeah, those games are just so full of and yeah, it's just also the atmosphere. Like there's so much atmosphere in all of those games.
You know what's great
Yeah.
that you're mentioning about it too is that so Saturday I was with Josh, if you guys remember Josh from college. I was also with another college friend named Alejandro.
Alejandro.
Or Alex. He loves Dark Souls. Like we were talking about Dark Souls, and he likes the aesthetic. He likes the yeah, pretty much a lot of the same things. The detail, the lore. He loves it, and
Yeah.
he's really into it. And then I was saying that like I love the From Software games just because like you can keep playing the game in different ways. That always gets me, to be honest. Like if you can play the game with different weapon sets and like you're just playing it differently.
Yes.
There's something
Mhm.
about that brings me back, and I think I just like the exploration of like having to play it different ways.
Mhm.
I mean that even connects to some of what Apollo was saying about trophy hunting, where it forces like the good ones are the ones that force you to play a way that you never expected.
Yeah.
I think that's what I liked about a lot of the Dark Souls and From Software games. Like there's
Yeah.
a lot of weapons in there and armor and things in there that you can explore the way that it's being done.
I think if that's the reason why Dark Souls 3 is my favorite of the series. It might be
Interesting.
considered by the community as
The first one?
not the third one.
Oh, the third one. Okay.
Yeah, the third one, because it has the most variety of builds. It has all the improvements and all the quality of life improvements that the series has grown has acquired throughout the years, and there is just so much variety, and the community is just so lively in that game.
I hope Demon Souls transfers over all that quality of life, and I think they will. I'm not saying they won't, but I'm not gonna hold my breath. Maybe they fuck it up, but it looks like Demon Souls will have everything that they built upon so far, and then we'll add more to kind of keep it going.
Yeah, You know, if there's one
Well,
thing
yeah,
I think
it's interesting because From Software didn't actually do the remake, so
Mhm.
pretty. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested to see
So
how it'll
yeah,
turn out.
that's a good. That could be in its own podcast too. Like other studios making remakes, because I'm hearing about the fucking Metal Gear being remade, which honestly I don't want to be remade. If Kojima's not involved, I don't know. I don't think I want to even
there's a
touch it.
Yeah,
rare
I mean,
remake. It's called The Twin Snakes. It's the greatest remake ever.
That one is a good one, I will admit, and that's why I
Good.
think
I
this
mean,
is a
it
separate
ruins some of the
podcast.
scenes in the game, but yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So it's
I mean,
like
it ruins the whole Cyber Ninja fucking fight, but yeah.
It's.
I mean, it's not like I don't want them to make Metal Gear if they're not going to do that with Kojima either. But I mean, it's not like they're not going to. It's
I
fucking
know.
Konami,
they're
of course they
probably
are.
gonna. Yeah, I think they.
Oh, they're
will.
probably gonna ruin it too.
There's no way they're not
Konami.
working on Metal Gear 6. There's no way.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, gee, I really hope it's as good as Metal Gear Survives.
Fucking disgusting. That fucking.
You
game.
yeah, you guys were hoping.
That was the-
Ironically, you guys were hoping it was dead, huh?
That's the Fallout 76 of fucking Metal Gear.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Fucking.
Yeah.
That shit is ridiculous.
Like,
God.
they didn't even try. Like, the story is that they
No.
That's
get
the worst
sucked
part.
into a wormhole into some sort of parallel universe.
They had the same
Yeah.
fucking engine. You kidding me? Like they worked so hard to make the Fox engine work so fucking well, and yet this is what you come out with? Like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking Konami, you dumbasses.
Yeah. I mean, are they even a game company at this point?
Barely. I mean, that's their game division is like where they make the least amount of their money.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think the Pachinko games, right? Those are the
Pachinko. I mean, they sell everything in Japan. They sell gym equipment. They sell fucking like protein
not know
powder
that.
and shit. They sell literally everything.
I did not know
Is
that.
there Metal Gear
Jim-
protein
Like,
powder?
probably. I mean, like
It's like,
the
this is
thing
for your
is-
snake. Your snake.
most people in Japan, like they see Konami and they don't even know it's a game studio. Like they just see it. Oh well, yeah, it's like a sports bottle manufacturer and like a clothes manufacturer and like the West like is pretty much the only reason why like Konami is like known as a game company. Like it's pretty ridiculous. But that's I mean that's the
fucking
thing. They don't have to care. That's the problem is they don't their livelihood is not based in the game, so they don't
Yeah,
have to care at all.
Yeah,
they can do whatever,
they want.
It's just like, oh well, the game fails, the game doesn't. Who cares? Like, and they have. I mean, the only two property. I mean, they have PES too, which is the soccer franchise, which is not very popular in the U.S., but it's insanely popular in like the UK. The same way that like FIFA is popular here, so they pretty much just riding on that.
Yeah.
And then they'll obviously cash in on Metal Gear as soon as they can.
Hell yeah.
Well, the property
they
still
are.
has some name recognition.
Well, they're doing it. There's also that thing too that companies will do is that if you have intellectual property, if you don't do anything with it with a certain amount of years, you lose it. So there is that.
True.
Yeah,
Listen
that's why. Yeah, that's why they're
That's why
churning
you-
out like all these things.
Yeah. So then they just keep doing it, even if it's shit,
Yeah.
just so that they can stake their. Basically they can piss on it like a dog. This is my property. Nobody
Yeah.
else's.
Yeah, that's a huge. Yeah, and the whole copyright thing, it's like a whole. It's like a whole deal. Like you think of something like, Disney's Mickey Mouse. Like it's going to be. Is Borderlands going to be 100 years old in a couple of years? And like,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, we could
in the-
learn lessons from, say, when Michael Jackson, it's totally weird segue, but Michael Jackson had bought the rights to the Beatles song, and there was this whole bullshit between him because it was kind of like a insult to another artist to do that, and I think in Michael Jackson's view, he was just like, I'm just a huge fan and I have the money to do it. Right? He didn't think that, wait, you're buying my work. That's how Paul McCartney
Yeah.
yeah,
some of them are still alive.
yeah,
That's
like
my music.
and
Two
he
of
had
them
to
are, yeah.
try to
two
fight
of them.
to get his property back, but I don't even know if he ended up winning to get it back. He didn't even have enough money to even buy it, and just fucking Michael Jackson just swoops in and takes it and doesn't give it to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's like, hey, hey, you can give it to me because it's my work, but he didn't. I don't know where the social element went that way, but I'm just saying, like, imagine this, that Konami fucks up and they lose their rights to Metal Gear, and then Kojima has the capital to swoop in and take it. That'd be amazing. Because really, it's not
it
Konami's.
would. He doesn't want to. He doesn't want to do it anymore. Like,
Sure.
The only reason he kept like doing the Metal Gear games is because like it kept getting handed over to other people, and they weren't doing it
Yeah.
justice. So he had
Yeah.
to keep stepping in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shows.
It
Metal Gear
does.
survived.
And who knows? Like, what if it's like, if it's now his, then could he then properly give the reins to somebody else, or in a
Yeah.
supervising manner? Because it looked like
Yeah.
it looked to me that Konami was having an issue where they keep on begging for him to come back because they couldn't just do it. That's what I feel like. What was really going on? But that's an assumption on my end, so I don't actually.
Yeah.
I mean, in the end, it's the game industry is better without more Metal Gear Solid games. Like, I'm excited to see what next
we don't
new
wanna saturate
property.
it.
Yeah, I want to see what Kojima's gonna come up next after Death Stranding.
Yeah.
Because that was one crazy ride. Not always fun,
Mm.
not always great,
Does
but
anybody
always.
does anybody else have? Sorry, you go on.
Oh yeah. No, I mean, I do have a couple of other things that I was
Go for
gonna mention. Yeah, like, just to finish up games. Two things. Smash Brothers. It's a game I can always go back to.
Mm.
Get a couple of fights. Try the online experience. Find out I'm really shit at it, and just go back and
Don't
just
worry,
lick
I'm
my
garbage
wounds and
too.
yeah.
My score
it's so
rating
funny.
on Snake is like fucking 92,000. I just gave up.
Yeah. I remember when I first started, it's like, oh, 300,000. Ooh, I'm going up.
Yeah,
Now,
then it's just like.
yeah. Uh-huh.
You get one bad fight and then all that progress is lost. The fucking rating system is stupid.
Yeah. It's infuriating because, like, you can spend so much time trying to make that win, and you just keep losing and losing, and the
Yeah.
one time you actually win, you don't get any points. It's like, fucking bullshit.
Yeah, it's pretty much bullshit. And they should have made it where there's a different rating system when you have a four battle royale
Yeah.
situation, or a 1v1, because that's clearly two different types of ways of playing the game, and yet
Mm.
it's all the same under the same umbrella rating system. The points. It's
Yeah.
fucking dumb. I don't know. Whatever.
Mhm. The other thing is platformers, like 2D platformers. I love
Mm.
2D platformers. And
You love
if
that
this was the
Borderlands.
90s, yeah.
Borderlands jumping.
If this was the 90s, I would say, hey man, dust off your Super Nintendo, start playing Donkey Kong Country, the Donkey Kong Country games.
Mm.
Those were the
Donkey
best.
Kong Country on X-Band, man. Yeah.
It's on Switch right now. I just realized that they put both the first one and the second one. Diddy Kong's Quest.
Oh. Oh.
Donkey Kong Country 2, Diddy Kong's Quest.
Mhm.
What about from you know what? Beat 'em up games. I like beat 'em up games. I remember back in the day of going to the arcade for the X-Men one, and then like the Ninja
Yeah.
Turtles one. Oh man, when we went to fucking what was that arcade place down in
Oh, in Sacramento.
Sacramento?
Malibu.
Oh man, playing that. Oh, and they had the Simpsons one. I don't know about but that's comfort for me.
Oh yeah. But
Yeah.
Konami made a lot of good multiplayer beat 'em up games, especially with those based on cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
They not only did that, they did Ninja Turtles, they did Cowboys and Moo Mesa, they did Bucky O'Hare, which apparently was treated as like a continuation or a conclusion of the cartoon series because they got all the actors and everything. Konami was ambitious, and even if you didn't want stuff with the license attached to it, you could always play Sunset Riders. Not a beat 'em up, but it is formatted like they're beat 'em ups. It's the gameplay say it's more akin to Contra, except it's cowboys.
Right.
Mm-mm-mm.
Let me mention one thing that I do. Let me start a different type of media, and I'm gonna say I'm a basic bitch. I really enjoy The Office.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
The Office is excellent.
Yeah.
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 That's what I'm saying.
For
Like, that's gonna be
100%.
everybody's. That's gonna be everybody's answer.
Actually, I've met
Sure.
some people that don't like it. Can you believe
Oh.
that?
Okay, that I mean,
Well,
I'm
I
glad to
think,
hear.
yeah,
They can
you
go
don't need
burn
to talk
in
to
hell.
them anymore.
Yeah.
They're on the list now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you need that kind of negativity in your life.
Yeah. I'm just gonna be like, you know what? You do you, friend. I'm
Actually,
going
you
to
know,
enjoy.
I've been listening to a podcast like when I'm like grinding games. Like I think the last game I played it on was Ghost of Tsushima, and I save it specifically for like grinding like in game. But it's the podcast Office Ladies, and it's a watch along podcast where they go through episode to episode. And it's hosted by Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey, who play Pam and
Oh, that's so
Angela in the
cool. Yeah,
show,
yeah.
and
Ah.
yeah, and they became best friends on the show, and they decided to just like do this podcast. It's really really good podcast.
Interesting.
And they have like guests on. They've had like Rainn Wilson, John Krasinski, and like all the creators and stuff on the show. It's really really great podcast.
So it's like
That's really awesome.
it's like an extended, long form commentary.
Yeah, they go through like each episode of the show, and they'll give like behind the scenes stories and like what this scene meant, and like all the just like their memories of the show. And yeah, it's awesome.
That's pretty cool.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, that show is just infinitely quotable, you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Bears,
Definitely
beats,
one of
Battlestar
those-
Galactica.
Definitely, I highly agree. You could just slap it on and just let it run and just have a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many people actually say, "Well, how the tables turn"? Everybody just says, how the turns table. It's just completely modified our lexicon from that one. Okay, movies that I really just put on every time that they're on Netflix or whenever I have them on around. The Kill Bill movies. I can watch. They're just easy watch.
Yeah.
They're so well made. The action
Brenda
scenes are
Brenda
just,
for sure. Brenda, I will agree with you on that. She really likes that movie.
Yeah.
She'll put it on all the time. It's weird.
Yeah. the thing is that, like, I mean, I
Actually,
feel like
Apollo, you said that you had that. You keep watching
Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
I've watched it 9 times this year.
you
I have
really
a
watch one.
fucking problem.
I'm sorry, you watched Once Upon a Time more than once?
Yeah, he's.
I
watched-
fucking love that movie. I know you
I hate
don't
that
like it,
movie.
and it's totally fair. I totally see why you should think it's boring, but I
Yeah.
fucking love it.
I mean, I'll put the last 10 minutes because the last 10 minutes of the movie are fucking fantastic.
Like
Oh,
the,
yeah.
the violent explosion. Yeah.
Well, the
Oof.
build up to it, like of
Yeah.
of fucking Brad
Yeah.
Pitt's character going to the
Yeah.
fucking Spawn Ranch where the Manson family is, and then him meeting all of them, and then months later it all cascades because Rick Dalton is a fucking drunk who just inexplicably has this vitriol hatred of hippies, and that's what like causes him to that's what causes like the Manson family to divert, and like instead of going after Sharon Tate the way they did in real life, they go after Rick Dalton and Cliff Booth, who they end up killing them. It's just like so awesome.
It's really an amazing scene. But yeah, I mean, I don't even think Kill Bill are like his best movies. I think for me his best movies were both Django and what's it called?
You like
the Nazi
Inglourious
one.
Basterds, right?
Inglourious Basterds. Thank you.
Mm.
To me, that's like his
Part of
masterpiece.
me was hoping you'd say Reservoir
shit-
Dogs.
the
That's
sh-
okay too.
Oh, Reservoir Dogs is fantastic. Yeah. I would
Yeah, I
like
think
to see. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No.
I was just gonna say I would like to see that like in a just performed as a play, just like
Oh
that.
yeah, that would work really well. Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a way to do that.
Yeah. Someday in the future when we can finally gather again together in one place.
Yeah. But yeah, I think for me, actually, for me, I like the Django Unchained. Like that one was for me like, or maybe also Hateful Eight. Like honestly, I think
Oh yeah.
any
Hateful
of
Eight's
the
awesome,
yeah,
man.
I think any of his Western takes on stuff that just for me I will like the most out of all of them. Not saying that I don't like any of the other ones. I do like all of them.
I
Yeah, me
finally
too.
watched Jackie Brown, and that was a great movie too.
Yeah, Jackie Brown's really
Mm.
good. Underrated movie. Underrated.
Not my favorite, but definitely great.
Yeah, definitely not my favorite, and it shows because like it's not. He said it himself. Like it's not his original work. Like it's
Mm.
based off of a book,
Ah.
and he like that he adapted, which is that's the only movie he's ever done that with. So yeah, I think that's part of the reason. But I'd say my two favorite Tarantino movies are Pulp Fiction and the Kill Bill movies.
Ah,
Mm.
interesting. I think the other movies that I'm gonna sound like Dwight saying this, but the Matrix movies are some of my favorite movies.
Okay.
All of them?
I did say yes. I said Matrix movies
Get
as
the
in
fuck
plural.
out of here.
I love the
Just-
second and third one. Go ahead and fight me, bro.
I like the second one for its action scenes, but the story and the exposition dumps are too much for me. And then
Yeah.
the third one's just fucking trash.
You know what? I can't disagree. I can't disagree because I enjoyed that movie for a lot of dumb things that it has. Like a lot of the action scenes, I really like them. I like
Right.
that one dialogue scene inside the limbo, train station where
Oh.
Right.
it's the
Oh.
one
Yeah, yeah,
it's
yeah.
the
With
one
the
point
family?
where with the family. It's the one point in which you
Yeah.
realize, oh, like the programs also have, they're basically AI. They also have
Honestly,
their own
if
inner
on,
lives.
yeah, I feel like that was a missed opportunity of all the things you could fill the movie with. That should have been more
Yes.
of coming back in other
Yeah.
parts in the movie. Because I don't like how you're trying to like explain to us that there's more than one side to a story, but don't
Mhm.
even give us enough of the other side.
Right.
Yeah.
Like how it's like why do we care about the fucking machines? They're using us as batteries. Like fuck you. Like
Right.
and then you just give us this one family at this one time. You know.
Yeah, I mean, they just focused too much on the war between humans
Sure,
and machines,
yeah.
and like didn't delve further into the Matrix, which is what they should have
More
done
should
with
have
the
done.
sequels.
Mhm. Right.
Um.
I agree. I mean,
Yeah.
and
Which
I,
is
but I do like the fight scenes. I will agree with the like
Yeah,
fight scenes, and then like
I love that freeway
experimentation.
scene. That
Yeah,
freeway
that one's
scene with
fucking
Trinity on the
amazing.
motorcycle, where she's going against traffic. So fucking good.
Yeah.
yeah.
So good.
And then I like maybe like these little hints of like other villainous, like there's this underground world between the machines too, where like
Right.
there's
Yeah.
like the fucking ghost guys, and then that we're getting this kind of hint that maybe
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Fucking
they're
dreadlock
fucking
fool.
weird. Yeah, they
Yeah.
were ridiculous, but then like it was
I like that they're
exploration that they could have did better.
Well, it's just an interesting, throwaway line, right? Like, they belong to a different, version of the Matrix. Like, they're basically just the werewolves and the ghost
Mhm.
stories that, people grew up with.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, wait, what kind of Matrix were they building before? Like, Agent Smith over there had said that they had created Paradise at some point. I don't remember there being a lot of werewolves in my ideal Paradise.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty sure he wasn't mentioning that. Okay. Well, one thing that did come out of all that stuff, Animatrix was really fucking good. I like
Yes.
Oh yeah, yeah.
that. I enjoyed
Yeah,
those. If they
In
had
fact, they should have.
done that
Yeah.
more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should have incorporated more parts of
Yeah.
the Animatrix into the movie instead of like requiring you to watch it, as
Mhm.
homework.
Yep. Which, to be fair, wasn't much homework anyways, right? Like it didn't even like at all involved in any of the fucking things that you're seeing in the fucking movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just like
yeah.
maybe that one part where the whole revolution, maybe,
Right.
but
The second
I would have
Renaissance.
rather had that.
Yeah.
Like for fuck's sake, why couldn't we have
Yeah.
like a whole like part in the movie where we're just following like the Renaissance, you know?
Yeah.
Or show me another fucking Neo. Like you said that that you alluded to that there was other Neos that went through this fucking shit. Then show me them and what choices did they make or what was their situation? Why did they couldn't, make the right decisions?
Mhm.
It's kind of
Show not tell.
yeah, exactly. Yes, yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, that infamous architect scene where the Colonel is just fucking talking to Neo for
Oh,
like
yeah.
15 minutes straight. It's just I remember seeing that in theaters. and I'm
Absolutely.
just like,
KFC,
this
word
is
salad,
so
boy.
fucking boring. It's so boring. Like he's literally just talking at the audience. Like it's probably it might be one of the worst examples of an exposition dump. Like the exact way to not do exposition in movies is that scene.
You know what video game tried to emulate that? The Mass Effect 3.
Mm.
At the very end,
Mhm.
the fucking kid starts, giving
Yep.
you all this,
yeah.
exposition dump, and that's actually what was the big, that to me the biggest failing of that game. Like when you're at the end of at the story, you shouldn't be giving me new information. It should just be action, action, action.
It's a shame too, because
Yeah.
the storytelling in the rest of the games is so well done.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed but there's one thing I enjoyed, I specifically like about the last part of the Matrix. It's that they don't beat the machines. They actually just come to peace with them, and that was like, I guess that's an alternative that I don't ever really see in movies. So that's good.
Yeah, that there's a potential future.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens in Matrix 4.
Oh boy.
Oh boy.
Oof. And last but not least, whenever these movies are on my Netflix queue and they actually show up, Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Yes. Whenever they're there, yep, I'll just slap it on any of those. The
Fantastic.
Cornetto trilogy is so good.
A lot of people didn't like at World's End. I think that's what it's called.
World's Edge.
World's Edge. World's
Or
Edge.
World's End. It's World's End.
World's
Because
End.
there, I remember like it came like it is also like at World's End, which is the Pirates movie, Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
They have like almost the same title.
Yeah. World's End.
Yeah,
Yep,
I
it's
actually
the
wasn't
World's End.
crazy. I wasn't crazy about World's End. I definitely think it's the weakest of the trilogy. I still liked it, but it didn't hit me the same way that Hot Fuzz and Shaun of the Dead did.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, that's pretty much the media I'd like to relax to. Although right now I'm relaxing to when it comes to video games, I'm playing the new game by Supergiant, Hades.
Oh
I
yeah,
heard
a lot
that.
of people are playing that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of people are playing that.
It's so good. It's fantastic.
I should definitely check it out.
It's very much the culmination of all their other games. If you played Bastion, it has that isometric, RPG, the twin stick shooting, quality to it. If you play Transistor, in Transistor you have all these powers that get modified by other powers, and a lot of the weapons that you have are also modified with that, and it's all made in a sort of Diablo-esque procedurally generated dungeons and power-ups. It's a lot of fun. The gameplay is really fast paced and just feels nice and tight, and the power ups are fun to combine. I really recommend it.
All right. Okay. Is that everybody? So that's everybody's thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So this was episode 16. We'll see y'all next time. Our next topic is we'll discuss it, and you'll find out.
Yep. Yeah.
All
Thanks for watching, everybody. If you like.
Thanks for listening. Yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe. Put in some activity up in there.
If you want it. If you really don't like it, just give us
Click
a
on the
dislike.
bell if you want to hear more.
I
you
never
don't
ring the
like,
bell.
you know what? Even better. Actually, just tell us all your opinions and tell us how much our opinions suck. So that way, at least we have somebody to talk to.
Or just comment in the comment section. What do you guys like to relax to?
Honestly, we should say this in the beginning of the podcast instead of the end of the podcast. Now that I think about it. Anyways, yep, I'll end it here. I'll see y'all next time. Bye bye.
Bye.
Oh, yeah.